got pro players calling us out, and that's just like baffling. I'm looking at my phone, and the number one player in the world is calling you out, saying you don't respect the rules. That's absolutely asinine. If everything goes south from here, it'll all have been worth it. And the pro players know it's there, right? Because here's the thing. They're not only, some of them playing with it, they're asking me for it. Hey, send me the highest grit Legacy Pro. What? What? It's very uncontrollable. It's very, you can hear it. It's not a huge issue for any of the companies when it comes to the number of paddles in the market. But, it's definitely something that needs to be stomped out of the game. We didn't want another marshmallow. Quite frankly, there's a ton of marshmallows on the market. Some companies own all the marshmallows, right? We didn't want a marshmallow, right? We didn't want that. We'll leave them to have the marshmallow. If that's what control looks like, we'll leave it to them. Ours hits like a machine.
All right, so it's early 2023 and Legacy paddles are flying off the shelf. Pros are using it, various YouTube channels are reviewing it, and sales are going through the roof. But then, Paddlegate 2.0. Sound familiar? It all started when USA Pickleball banned a release of Carbon's paddles back in May of 2022. After that was over, everything seemed fine. Until recently, many of these smaller brands have been drawn into the spotlight, and some even over pending legal discourse. Chris Dickert, the co-founder of Legacy Pickleball, is actually one of them. While they have not been called upon by USA Pickleball for any violations, there have been accusations made by other parties outside of this regulatory committee. These accusations, whatever the speculations and allegations may be, put this man's company and ability to provide for his family financially in jeopardy. Stick around until the end to hear more on why Chris does this, who he does it for, and the origination of his saying, "Bet on yourself." It gets a little emotional. Hey, what's going on, Chris? Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, bud.
Yeah, for sure. Can you tell me a little about yourself as well as Legacy Pickleball, your brand?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, my name's Chris Dickert. I'm from Alabama. I grew up in Alabama, went to school at the University of Alabama. Been playing pickleball probably about 3.5, 4 years myself as a tournament player. Legacy is our little love child. It kind of started randomly. I was playing in Atlanta, and my little girl was with me, and I was testing the waters at Pro, and I was getting whipped out there on the court, and I look over, my little girl is just hanging out with some of the pros, and she's a big fan of Annalie Waters, and she's 5 now, but at the time she was 4, and we kind of just enjoyed the moment. Later, a company or a couple of companies kind of approached us about maybe sponsoring my little girl and kind of building a brand around her, maybe doing some paddles, and making her kind of the face of the junior paddles, look kind of like the next kind of like Annalie Waters, if you will. And, I think I made the mistake of telling her, "Hey, sweetheart, we're going to look at making a paddle for you and put your name on it." And, when we got down towards the end of it, it just seemed like, for me, I'm all about family. And the way it worked out was it was probably better for her if we did it ourselves. And so I had to make a decision as a dad to either honor my word or just disappoint my little girl. And that wasn't going to happen. So we went to bat working on the first junior carbon fiber paddle, and we named it Prodigy. And we really have tried to make a paddle for the juniors and the super juniors. We're trying to coin the term super juniors for the kids that are 4 to 8 years old and bring them into the game. Ellie's been playing probably since she was, I don't know, maybe 1. She started out with a little Selkirk novelty paddle and kind of went from there, got her a little one-shot paddle, and it was pretty cool. And then, now she's 5, but she's very athletic, and she can handle herself dinking real well and hitting backhands and forehands. And, so I wanted to build a tool for the super juniors and juniors that was, a training tool, not just another paddle with a name on it to flip paddles and sell paddles. And that was important for me, because I've coached a lot of sports over the years. My kids, I have 3 children. They're all super athletic. And for me, I wanted to do something for the junior program and the super juniors. And, it was an untapped market. I wanted to make sure that we got in and we made a difference in that environment. And so her and I started looking at tons of different, looks. And she probably went through 1,500 different designs, and she settled in on a rainbow glittery paddle. And I think I got one right here. Matter of fact, this is a copy of it. And we named it the Prodigy, and we put a little name on it, Ellie Dickert series. But it's a carbon fiber paddle. It's smooth carbon fiber, so it's not raw carbon fiber. But for us, we wanted to make something that we knew would be forgiving, and it was a little bigger. It had a longer handle, so kids could start developing a two-handed backhand at an early age. And the thing I know about children and kids after coaching, if they have some success, they're having fun, right? And if they're not having success, they're probably not going to come back to the game, So I was a baseball player growing up, and you take a kid into the uh, hitting cages, and they miss 10 balls in a row. They're probably not having fun. They go home and they're like, "Mom, man, I stink at baseball," and they probably don't want to come back, right? So for some of the paddles that we found out on the market, um, it just seemed like they weren't real training tools. I play 5-0. I'm not the best player out there, but I couldn't control some of those paddles, and so if I couldn't control it, how's my 4 and 5 year old going to control it, right? And so it was really more about novelty at that point versus, application and predicting and practicality and stuff. So we tried to change that, and we're just getting started on that. We've got some pretty cool things coming on that, but in the process, we knew that we probably needed to build an adult paddle, and so I went to work on that. I took 6 of the best paddles on the market that I was fans of, and I tore them apart. And what I liked about them, I kept, and what I didn't like, I fixed. And there were some glaring things that needed to be fixed, and so I fixed them. And indirectly, we came up with a paddle that was pretty dope. And felt like it was going to make a difference in the marketplace. And for us, we named our company Legacy because it was something that we wanted to leave behind for our children, and that's it. I mean, we didn't get into this to make a ton of money. Really selling paddles was kind of the last thing on our minds, right? It was really about holding my word to my daughter. Um, but in the meantime, we've got a mission and vision and value statement that we believe in, and we want to change the game for we want people to gravitate to us because of who we are and what we stand for, not for a shiny paddle that we made, or we can make any paddle out there. But that's kind of how we got started.
Yeah, you're definitely right about children. If they don't find success early, then they just want to move on to the next thing, which is actually funny because adults are the exact same
Yeah,
way. And I think that's like why pickleball is what it is now, because a lot of people will play and be like, it's hard, but it's not like impossible. And you kind of remove certain aspects that other sports require, like I think athleticism to a
yeah,
degree.
yeah, absolutely,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's part of
Yeah.
some of the beauty of our sport is you can take a 5-year-old and a 70-year-old, and you don't know who's going to win the match, right? It really takes out athleticism to a point. I mean, you can make it as competitive as you want. Obviously, you can run it all the way up to pro, but the majority of the game is at the rec level. If there's 5 million players, probably 4.8 million of them don't play tournaments. So it's truly about the social aspect. And it's by far the coolest sport out there to me because it takes out race, ethnicity, socioeconomic background. None of that matters. And if you peel away everything, and it's just a bunch of great people enjoying hitting a wiffle ball back and forth. You know what I mean? It's pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, totally. What paddle were you using before Legacy?
So right before Legacy, I was sponsored by Babolat, and before that, I was with Paddletek, and I was playing with the Monster Power. And and that was part of the need for a better paddle. Babolat's a great company, but the technology is just not there in their paddles yet. And it's extremely difficult to play at a high level against these paddles out there that just have stupid grit, and with a paddle that can't keep up with it. And I mean, a lot of people say that the tool doesn't matter, or the paddle doesn't matter, or the arrow doesn't matter, it's the Indian, but I tend to believe it's both. And so you can, if it wasn't that way, you'd never see advancements in any sports like golf, going from woods to irons, to baseball, going from wood bats to aluminum. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. So
What's different about the junior paddles?
yeah, so the first thing we did was we made it all one piece. You know, in the adult paddle, that was the biggest thing that I found right off the bat. Was majority of paddles on the market had an inferior build when it came to design. The handles would break on an overhead. Probably broke, I don't know, 15, 20 paddles over the span of playing, just from hitting overheads and putting so much force into an overhead. And so I wanted to make sure that our junior paddles kind of mimicked our adult paddles in that it was one piece. And so that was the very first thing. Then the carbon fiber, it was definitely the first on the market. Another company kind of followed behind us and made theirs not far behind us. But I feel like in order to move the needle, you have to bring in different aspects of technology. And it might not be reinventing the wheel, but it definitely has to push the envelope further down the road. And we were very much about being legal and adhering to the USAPA rules. That was the biggest thing for me, was like, I knew, on the adult paddle, the junior paddle, not so much, obviously, because you don't see a lot of grit on the junior paddles out there. But in the adult tournament area, you're seeing a tremendous amount of friction on the paddles now. And, for us, we wanted to make sure that our paddle was legal on the grit side, and we wanted to make sure that we used physics behind it to, help the spin rate, because I didn't want to come out and be a little fish in a big pond and have a paddle that was pushing the illegal limit on grit. And they go, well, we're not going to bust so and so and so and so because they donate so much money to the tours and USAPA. We're going to pop Legacy, right? And they're the little fish. We can use them as an example. And I've heard a couple pros talk about it right the opposite, right? I heard Zane say something about yesterday about little companies can come out and push the envelope because, man, it's only $50,000 to them, and if they lose it, it's no big deal, right? Well, I don't think Zane was really thinking through that, because I'm a single dad, right? $50,000, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money I could have put towards my kids' education. So it's even more stringent on us as small companies to do the right thing and for the right reason, so that we can succeed in this industry, because we're very expendable being little. Big fishes can come in, clean us up, come after us, try to uh, lock us down in court and everything else. So, for us, we wanted to make sure we did it right. And so, we kind of took Gearbox's idea. I mean, you don't have to have friction to spin a ball. I mean, look at Gearbox. It's slick as all get out, right? And it spins the ball fine. So there's different physics behind it that if you combine it, and you don't necessarily have to depend on illegal grit to spin the ball at a high RPM. And so that was kind of what the idea was, is how can we design a paddle that the ball dwelled on the face long enough for you to shape it, to increase the speed. And I feel like we did that. For our first paddle out on the market, I think the Legacy Pro hit a high mark. And we've got our challenges, obviously, but we're real excited about it and where we're headed. So
Yeah, it's definitely making waves. I've talked about, I think the last episode is with Joey B from the Pickleball Exchange, and I've like
yeah,
talked about Reddit. I've talked about Reddit, and I've talked about you and Legacy, and I've just talked about how Legacy is probably the most popular post within the subreddit of pickleball right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've said it's like mixed, right? It's kind of like a double-edged sword, like,
Yep.
or like a kind of like a love hate. There
Yep.
are people who are like, man, I just ordered it, and you see it like posts are just flooding,
Yeah.
just like, I can't wait. And on the flip side, there's like also
Where's my paddle?
3 months. Yeah. And, I've talked about it on the last episode too. It's
Yeah.
just like, it's not a, it's not like a knock at all. It's just like there's high demand, and Joey cleared things up and was like, there's manufacturing like holdups. There's things that are kind of like outside of your control.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to give you a chance
Yeah.
to shed some light on that. Even though you are transparent, you send emails, you have like posts, but yeah, just give you the opportunity to shed some light on
Yeah.
it.
We grew fast, right? We came out October, and December we had sold out already, even before reviews came out, because everyone that was in our area was buying the paddle and knew that we had something different, right? It was just built different, and you could feel it when you hit it. You could feel it, and so we were approved in September, and you know a couple months down the road, the Carbon Power Series comes out right behind ours. This is very similar to ours. It was very apparent that our factory was not the most loyal when it came to intellectual property. And so, lesson learned, Carbon's a great company. But, we felt like we brought something out that was, you know, different. And so right after that, you saw Vatic SixZero coming out, and everybody has their different opinion on who brought it to the table as far as the thermoforming and all that. But needless to say, in December we sold out. Some reviews came out; they were really good. On the 26th of December, we sold out. I had a rush order coming in. Came in on the 3rd. Before the 3rd even got in, we had already sold out of that shipment that came in, which was triple the amount that we had ordered prior. So I rushed another shipment before the factories went into their holiday for 20 days, their Chinese New Year. And that was really the huge issue, was planning accordingly for that, right? And so, being in the industry probably last April, you might know about that. And I was not prepared for the demand, you know. And so we rushed another order in. We went into back order status, shut down pre-orders, and then dropped the price just as a convenience to our customers. Because look, we're not trying to make a bunch of money on people. We wanted to make affordable paddle. We struggle with that in itself, because people say, "Oh, it's $150." It's a good value at $150, but they look at paddles that are $250 and go, "Man, those must be really good paddles." Well, actually, our paddle could sell for $250. Our paddle could sell for $300. It's not because we're a small company or we're new to the market. We could have came out and put the price at $299, and people would have still bought it, right? Because they like expensive things. And so that's not who we are. We're family oriented. And so, the demand got so high so quickly that, we were prepared in February for the shipments to come. There was a delay at the factory because not only was our demand getting higher, Carbon's demand got higher, SixZero's demand got higher, Vatic's demand got higher. So now all of a sudden, the factory that is pushing the thermoforming paddles is at max capacity, right? And so they got to make a decision on, who do we cater to? Do we cater to the bigger company in Carbon? Do we cater to the smaller companies? Do we try to balance it out? So they started, I feel like, trying to balance this all out and try to keep us all happy. And so they started cutting our supplies. And so we, at the same time, started looking at some issues in the marketplace with the delaminations. And so in some of the colder areas, we were noticing that not only us, but some other companies, the thermoforming companies, were dealing with some issues around delamination, where the glue's coming undone from the core, and it's making this paddle a little bit more powerful in some instances. Some instances it's making it dead. And we immediately went into, okay, we got to fix this issue, because we don't want it to become an issue, right? And listen, paddles are not made to be played in 35-degree weather. If you put glue in a freezer, it's going to crack. if you put glue in a heater, or you go put it in a truck in Alabama at 100 degrees outside, it's going to turn into 150 degrees and the glue is going to start to melt. Don't leave them in your car in extreme weather. Don't leave it outside. Try not to play in 35-degree weather for long, because not only are you playing with a paddle that's cold with a cold face, you're playing with a cold core, and you're playing with a ball that gets harder in the cold, right? So, we're definitely seeing more delamination issues, I think, across the four companies in the colder areas. And so we immediately went back, started trying to adjust the application at the factory. That took some time, 2 or 3 weeks for them to adjust. That kicked our supplies back. We got some tests back from that, and we noticed that some of the other companies had a couple of new ones that didn't pass. They were starting to necessarily, or not necessarily not pass, but they delaminated. And so we were like, okay, well, we need to make an adjustment here, because we're not going to just stick this out at the same factory. If we can't get this process done right, we're going to check out some other factories. And that's what we did. And so Legacy shifted, right? We made a big shift really quickly. No one knew about it. We took the same application, same materials, the same design set up for Legacy Pro, and we took it somewhere else at the same time. And we kind of recreated a different thermoforming process. Thermoforming has been around for a long time in different industries. Word on the street is it's been in our industry before in different applications. But, the way we were doing it with the foam and the carbon seal and everything, it just seemed like that was the best technological advancement that we could make, coming from what was out on the market. And with carbon fiber being real popular, that was where we wanted to be. And so if the process is a really good process and it's a really good paddle, if glue is the issue, we ought to be able to fix it. So we had to rechange, or readdress rather, the way things were, I guess, set up. Because, say for instance, if you put all the pieces together and you glue it and then you heat it up, maybe the heat itself is breaking down some of the glue internally, right? And then as it's shipped out later, different elements are hitting the paddle. It's starting to now show, because it's becoming delaminated. Well, we felt like you could do the same process without doing it exactly that way, right? Before maybe the glue was all applied. And so we shifted it, and that caused us some delays. And of course, we went into emergency mode. People were still wanting the paddle. We thought about backing off and not continue to do pre-orders and or back orders, and people were still blowing us up. We were getting emails after emails. Please let us just put the order in. And I'm like, okay, so we'll just continue to do that, and we'll be very transparent. I try to live by that myself. And so, obviously, a double-edged sword. Reddit. If you breathe wrong, they'll tell you. And so, there's Reddit subreddits out there that, hey, I ordered mine at 1/12/2023 at 10:52 p.m. with 23 seconds to go. You know what I mean? And so I just got my paddle, and somebody else is out there. Oh man, I ordered mine on 3/1 at 12, whatever. I'm waiting. It's like, I love it, man. It's such a great problem, but it really breaks your heart, because you want to be able to give people the paddle, but at the same time, I want to make sure they're happy with what they're getting, right? And I'd much rather people be upset with me for the delay and us give them discounts, or maybe, like, for instance, I just sent out a mass email. I don't know if you heard about it or not, but I gave everybody like 4 options that were coming from January and February orders. And it was like, get a percentage off your current paddle, right, order, or get percentage off your next Legacy Pro order, or the Legacy paddle order, or off our tour bags that are about to come out, right? Or you can donate 10%, and we'll donate 10% to the Dementia Society of America, because not only with all that going on, my father's started to develop some dementia himself, and was walking down the street, headed to the gas station to see his little buddy at the gas station, fell in the middle of the road, and knocked himself out, and broke his wrist, shattered it. had to have emergency surgery. He's 69 years old. We weren't sure if he was going to make it through it, just the anesthesia alone. And he stayed in the hospital for 3 weeks. He literally got out last night. And so, that's just life. No excuses on delays or anything like that, but tried to be very transparent and tell people that. And, um, you know, that's what we're about. Legacy, we're all about family. Here we are with a family issue that is not causing any delays. It's absolutely the quality control that we're trying to in place, and we have paddles in hand. We're scanning them. We hear that USAPA is looking at changing the way they do some of the testing. So we're very much waiting to hear what they're planning on doing so that we can be abreast of it. We'd love to see more transparency in that part of the industry so that we could continue to make good paddles for people. But we'll see how that plays out.
I've gotten in contact with someone who's on the equipment side for USAPA and trying to get them on here.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, just create some transparency, like you said.
I'm a player too, right? And so I don't like hearing about new testing and things like that through players, especially pro players. Hey, by the way, so and so at USAPA reached out and wanted to buy my paddle because they heard that it might be delaminated. But that just seems not the right process, right? I mean, if the paddle manufacturers are out there and we're paying to have these paddles tested, we're the ones driving the industry when it comes to the paddles. We want to put products out that are fun to play with, safe for the game, good for the game, and continuing to bring the game into the 21st century, right? I mean, we want to we want more transparency. Talk to us, tell us what's going on. Invite us in. You know what I mean? Don't keep us on the outside looking in and then let us know, hey, by the way, you got a paddle that didn't pass. Don't that's not transparency. That's the good old boy network. And listen, I'm from the South, so I know how the good old boy network works, right? Let us in. Yeah, I'm sure every paddle company owner out there wants more transparency when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's so true that you don't want, like, why are rules and regulations and testing being heard? Like, why are we finding out about it through like professional players? And why are
Yeah.
the companies, the people who are manufacturing or like creating the products, being the last ones to hear about? And there's
Yeah.
certainly some like hierarchy in terms of like the priority. And that's where things get like definitely muddy. And someone
Yeah.
had called this out before about like, no shade on Duper and what that rating system has done, but they just thought it was weird that Duper is a rating system for the same tournaments that they also have sponsored players. So they thought it was odd that like why are some of the professional players sponsored by the very same rating system
Mhm.
that is being used in these tournaments?
I've never played a sport where an active pro player, is also an owner in the tour that they're playing on, or they're have some stake in the governing body, if you will. And so that's interesting. That's definitely interesting, right? And so and I think everyone's trying to do the best they can when it comes to navigating those waters as we continue to grow as an industry. Um, and I mean, wow, I mean, what MLP's done for the game, brought a ton of excitement. There's just so many things that are working in the right direction, but transparency could definitely take it a better turn for all of us. I mean, who doesn't want to know what paddles pass, how they pass, what the numbers are? I'd be all for seeing everyone's numbers and our numbers being published. I mean, why is it not? Right. And so, that seems to be the most fair thing. Why is there not a website that we could all see everybody's product and what, they hit on? I mean, I don't think that gives any intellectual property away, right? Seeing what the deflection numbers are for the Legacy as a stock paddle, right? I mean, because what I do know is our paddle is 100% legal, was made to be 100% legal. It was actually made to be better than the paddles that were illegal on the market currently that weren't being held accountable for illegal grit. Because I mean, you can literally feel some of the paddles on the market. It feels like sandpaper, and you're like, come on, man. I mean, who's holding these companies accountable, right? And then you've got pro players calling us out, and that's just like baffling. I'm looking at my phone, and the number one player in the world is calling you out, saying you don't respect the rules. That's absolutely asinine. Man, you're the best player in the world, hands down. But he has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to legacy, not respecting the rules. That's exactly what we did, and how we created our paddle was to respect the rules, right? And if you hear anybody touch a legacy, they go, "Man, that thing feels like it's smooth." Well, there's a reason, right? We didn't push the grit over just to compete with pro players. We didn't do that, right? We didn't rush out there to sponsor a bunch of pro players. We're more about family. We're more about every player out there. The amateur players are just as important as the pro players. The rec players that don't know any pro players, they're more of them than anybody else, right? And so for us as a company, we want to make sure we're also meeting the needs of everybody out there. And the paddles that we are working on right now, they don't cater to the pros, right? They cater to the average Joe. And so, and we love the pros. Man, I love watching Ben play. I love watching him play. He's phenomenal. But, he was way off base on that comment, as far as respecting the rules. So,
Yeah, it's definitely odd considering you guys haven't been approached by USAPA. Carbon, I don't know why they keep getting like mentioned. I don't know why they're the scapegoat. I like Carbon. I like Garrett. Based on what he's done by
yeah.
making the mistake in the past and how he handled it, I was like, this honestly the best way he could have handled it, just given you are a business. I agree with you. Like changes should definitely be transparent because the danger with keeping that from the companies and just really just everyone is at the end of the day, you're affecting the consumer. Without the consumer, there's none of this. So it's like you're hearing about, oh, like the carbon paddle might be banned. Well, what about all the people that purchase the paddle?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not really the company's fault if the company thinks that they're doing it
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
within the right
yeah,
guidelines.
I can tell you this, and I mean, I'm not going to speak for Garrett and the other companies, but I'll say this. I believe that the intent when it comes to the thermoforming paddles was to make a better build, a better quality paddle, so that we didn't have warranty issues when it came to broken handles, broken edge guards, stuff like that. Okay. So at no point, now, this has nothing to do with, Paddlegate 1.0 and the grit gate, right? Right. This has everything to do with the build of these paddles now. And not one of these four companies went into it at all thinking we're going to put a paddle out there that will eventually delaminate and it will give someone a competitive edge. That is absolutely false. And I don't care who the pro is that keeps saying it. I don't care how good they are. It doesn't matter who they are. They are absolutely wrong. That's not what we built it for. No one wants to deal with warranty issues, right? We actually were trying to avoid warranties by making the paddle the way we made it, right? So that's absolutely the opposite. And unfortunately, it looks like there's some glue issues going on. And listen, delamination is not a new thing. It's been around for a long time. Almost every paddle I've ever had has delaminated at some point, right? It becomes dead. The people used to be like, "Oh man, my graphite paddle, I don't understand. It's dead in the center." Yeah, it's starting to come loose from the glue, it delaminates. The problem is in the past, because the builds of the paddles weren't as good, when they delaminated, they got weaker. Right now, there's so much tension on the edges that when it delaminates, it becomes more springy. It's very uncontrollable. You can hear it. It's not a huge issue for any of the companies when it comes to the number of paddles in the market. But, it's definitely something that needs to be stomped out of the game. I mean, tournament directors, there's been a rule for delamination for a long time. All they've got to do is test the paddle. You can squeeze a paddle and hear it crunch. that thing is delaminated. It doesn't need to be able to play with in a tournament. And if they want to test every paddle beforehand, test away, right? We want pros that play with our paddle to play with a good paddle, not a paddle that's inconsistent, right? Because here's the thing: they might hit it harder, but they're going to spray it over there, and over there because they can't control it, right? So unless they're in a hand battle, they're going to have a hard time controlling it. Now, people are going to take this and run with it, and they're going to go, "Oh man, Legacy hits hard. It's delaminated. Come on, right? Let's stop that narrative right now. The Legacy at stock was one of the most powerful paddles on the market. Period. Okay. Period.
Yeah, Chris Olson made a
Yeah.
video about
Period.
that, and he
That's
was
right.
like, "This hits like a
Period.
truck." This was a
Yeah.
month ago, and Will
That's
made
right.
one 2 months
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. So I mean, and we didn't want another marshmallow. Quite frankly, there's a ton of marshmallows on the market. Some companies own all the marshmallows, right? We didn't want a marshmallow, right? We didn't want that. We'll leave them to have the marshmallow. If that's what control looks like, we'll leave it to them. Ours hits like a machine, and we I tend to call it a Ferrari, right? And so you can put a 16-year-old in a Ferrari, and the 16-year-old can handle it if they drive it appropriately, right? But if they jump in that Ferrari and stomp the gas like they did in that Honda, they're going to have some trouble. And so that's kind of the way our paddle's built. It's built for a person that understands grip pressure, can squeeze to make it more powerful, loosen up to have more control. And, you have to practice with it. I mean, it's just built that way. And so I hope they get it all straight. I hope it's not any backhandedness, between the tours and USAPA. And, you know, I try not to get into the rumor mill stuff, but it's lining up like it's very odd how it's lining up that certain players are coming out that have their names on paddles against the paddles that are out there that are making noise and are hot right now. And maybe it's affecting their sales, right, and their pocket change. And it's directly affecting their companies. And so I'll say this, and then I'm going to get off of it because I know I beat this horse. Um, I listen to these pros go right on social media, and I try to be very transparent. And I'll tell you, almost every pro that has come out and said something about these thermoforming paddles has ordered a Legacy Pro. Not only that, not only that, they've either texted me or called me and said, "Hey man, this is probably one of the best paddles on the market. Period. Don't tell my company." Right? And so I'm just waiting for the day one of them just puts me on big time blast, and I'm gonna post that text. So it's coming. You know who you are out there. So I'm just saying, leave me alone. We're trying to do the right thing. So just kidding.
Hey, always keep that proof. Always
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
it.
I got it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
The transparency is huge, man. It's I guess I can only really equate it to pickleball because, or like talk about it in pickleball because I really don't follow much other
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
But transparency is huge from a company. Like you don't see it in large companies. You don't see it from banks. You don't see it from corporations.
yeah,
And there's it like coincides with pickleball very well because pickleball has that community vibe. It
mhm,
has that kind of like organic, homegrown.
yeah,
It has a family vibe. The vibe, same vibe that you're trying to
yeah,
convey. And there is something about seeing the CEO, the founder responding, whether it's Reddit, Twitter, sending emails out. Like that takes
yeah,
time,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it also like subjects you to risk
yeah.
in terms of like what you're saying.
Mhm,
You haven't said anything bad, but there are people like Elon, he's like very
yeah,
transparent and he's said things that are very like off the rails,
yeah,
but at the
yeah,
same time, what you're getting is someone very transparent. He's going to tell you what's on your mind
yeah,
instead of like all these other people who hide behind the screen and they never say anything. They use someone else to make the announcements or
yeah, yeah,
talk on their behalf. And I just want to say, like, as a consumer, but also as a human being, transparency is so important in this culture, in this day and age, that it's awesome that you do that. And I see it all over Reddit.
yeah,
Like people are just like, "Oh, dude, he's like responding in these posts, and he's like commenting, and he's like sending emails." And they like copy and paste the links to or like the screenshots of the emails.
Yeah, yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah. I appreciate that. Here's the thing, man. I think that we've got so many things that we want to accomplish as a company, and one of them is really good customer service. And you know, if you ask me or John, what's most important for us in this game, it's family, right? And so I want to leave behind something that my kids can be proud of. And I've had plenty of missteps in my life, right? We all have. And it's a learning process. Everything is. And I know that if you are, if doing the one of the legacy athletes said this to me, and it's so true. Her name's Jamie, and if she sees this, she's going to probably howl that I mentioned her. But she said, "Doing the right thing is never wrong," and I agree. I just feel like if you peel back all the layers of legacy, what you'll see is a company that believes in bringing attention to mental health awareness. When it comes to pickleball, bring in attention to the benefits of playing pickleball and how good it is for you both mentally and physically. And that's important to me because I'm a single dad, so I've gone through things myself. And pickleball was both a detriment and a savior, if you will. And man, it took a while to really dive into that and own it, because there was a time where I was going through some things, and I felt like pickleball was probably the reason I was going through it. And but at the same time, pickleball turned it around for me. You know what I mean? Because when I didn't have that there, I had that family community in pickleball, and they lifted me up. And so for me, it's hard to talk about as a man about mental health, but that's important to me. And so for us as a company, that's what we want to do. And in order to do that, you have to be honest with yourself and honest with other people. And so that's probably where the transparency comes from, is just owning my mistakes, owning the things that I'm accountable for, and putting yourself out there. Because listen, man, every time I open my phone, I'm like, oh man, we have to get back in stock. We have so many things that we want to do. People text me at late at night, or I'll put my cell phone out there, and people are like, man, don't put your cell phone on Facebook. Are you crazy? And I'm like, it's okay, because I had conversations on Christmas Eve after the kids went to bed, and I had, you know, Santa Claus came, and people called talking about the paddle. And man, to me, that's amazing. And I want to make sure I'm always available and answering the phones. And John's the same way. And whether we're a $7 company or a $10 million company, we're still going to be the same two people. And for us, it's amazing because we've attracted a group of players that is just grassroots campaign to a T, and they just gravitate to us, and they're all good people. Our athletes are just all good people, and we're so blessed to be around so many amazing people that you almost had to pinch yourself every day, the good and the bad, right? And being on the forums and Reddit, and you can't please everybody. That's probably the hardest thing, I think, of being transparent, is disappointing some, and I feel like I'm such a people pleaser in some ways, but at the same time, it's, you know, you have to stay true to your mission. And if that mission is one thing, and people are dragging you in different ways, you have to stay focused on that path. And that's where we're at, right now. So
Yeah. Being a people pleaser is very exhausting, and
sure.
it's
Yeah.
very, it's a definitely a weird battle.
Yeah, too. And if you defend yourself, right, it makes you look defensive. It's difficult because you're passionate about it, right? And so it's like somebody picking on your kids. You jump out there and defend them, but some people take that different ways, and really it's just passion. And my company is all about those three kids, and John's kids, and everybody's kids. I mean, like the coolest thing for me wasn't that the Legacy Pro became like super popular, super quick. It was, man, those 100 Ellie Dickert Prodigy series paddles that we shipped out, and I got pictures every hour, just boom, boom, boom on Christmas Eve of little girls smiling, loving life, loving the game. And it's like, man, if everything goes south from here, it'll all have been worth it, right? I mean, just because, one, I was a man of my word, and my daughter will always know that, right? And then two, we've pushed the quality of paddles, right? So now we're talking about new tests, right? We're talking about, I mean, it's amazing, the things that are now starting to happen because we're trying to push it in the right direction. And by no means are we trying to push it over the envelope, but again, just pushing it in the right direction, right? And so
Yeah.
for us, that's pretty cool just to be a part of that,
Yeah. The fact that they're like reconfiguring the testing, yeah, you could think of it as like some people could think of it as like a bad thing, but honestly, if we're talking about the advancement of the sport
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all that, then it is good.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously, regulation is very tricky. It's kind of like if you equate it to like crypto, right? Like crypto, all these people are getting screwed over, and there's like all these rug pulls. It's because regulation just can't keep up. Same with tech companies, like big companies like Google, Apple,
yeah, yeah,
Amazon have like antitrust laws. So
yeah.
regulation is always going to be something very tricky to balance out and figure out. But we just hopefully, I don't know what it's going to take. Maybe it takes like getting paddle founders all at this like round table.
That's how it should be, right? That's how it should be. You should bring the heads of the companies in together, and listen. It doesn't matter what the rules are, right? If the rule is RX is 40, then we're going to be under 40, right? If the rule is 80, we're going to be under that. But let's set some clear rules and let's hold everybody accountable for it, right? And let's have an even playing field when it comes to the rules, right? Just because my paddle hits harder doesn't mean it's bad for the game, right? Doesn't mean that it's illegal. It's not, right? And so if a paddle breaks, that's not the responsibility of necessarily the player or the company, right? It could be that it just broke, right? It could be that there's a flaw in manufacturing. It could be that, maybe there is a company out there that's trying to do things the wrong way, right? There's always that option of taking that path, right? But if every company is held to the same standard, and when you hear about, and I'm going to just be as real as it gets right now, I have heard about illegal grit until I'm blue in the face. I've played against the paddles. I've felt the paddles. I've seen the cut returns hit back at me. I know it's there, and the pro players know it's there, right? Because here's the thing. They're not only, some of them playing with it, they're asking me for it. Hey, send me the highest grit Legacy Pro. What? What? You know what I mean? So like, people are talking out of both sides of their mouths. You know what I mean? They want transparency. They want it to be fair, but they also want what they want to give them a competitive advantage. And it's so crazy seeing the backside of it as well. You know what I mean? And so when you hear people talk and take the higher moral ground, it's almost like, come on, man. You know, aren't you that same guy that asked for that high grit? You know, you know what I mean? Come on, man. You know, like, oh my goodness, man. Yeah, okay, all right. But at the end of the day, we all just want the same even playing field. Set the rules, set the expectations, and then let us go out there and make paddles that fit in that. And we did that, right? So if they come out and they ban the Legacy Pro, or they ban carbon, or they ban any of the thermoforming paddles, man, what a mess. What a mess, right? Because we passed all the tests. Not only did we pass the test, we passed with flying colors. Okay. So we have room to grow when it comes to grit or deflection. So if a paddle becomes broken, it should go in the trash, period. You should send it back to the company, let them send it back to the manufacturer, replace that paddle, and hopefully that company does right by everybody and fixes the process so that it doesn't continue to cycle, right? Because as we all know, some companies continue to put paddles out there that break at the handle over and over and over and over and over. I got buddies that play with these paddles. They've had 14 warranties for the same paddle. Come on, man, fix it. Just fix the build. It's a build issue, right? And so, there's always going to be warranty issues with every company, and that's not new. There's always going to be delamination because we're dealing with glue, and resins. And hopefully, if anything, this will drive the paddle engineers to make a better paddle that doesn't depend necessarily on the glue. You know what I mean? And that's where we're headed. So we're hoping to put that.
The broken paddle, broken handle. I think we're on the same page as far as like which paddle that is. I have a buddy who's gone through 5 already and keeps sending it back to this retailer that supplies the paddle, and they just keep replacing it. And I'm just like, dude, when are you just going to move to another paddle? Like, you're only getting it because it's just what everyone else has to a degree, as opposed to like what is best for you, which is something that, Joey B was talking about. But
that's frustrating, right? That's so frustrating as a player. And I think I can say this because we're probably one of a handful of companies that's actually has players at a competitive level that own the company. That's ridiculous, man. I don't want to have to constantly go back to the company and ask for a new paddle because it broke, and so that's the absolute last thing I want to deal with as a player and a company owner, right? You want to build a product that doesn't do that, right? And so, I mean, we will always do right by the customer. If there's an issue, people can pick up the phone. They've got my cell phone. Listen, how many companies, and people can say, look, and they're a small company, they're going to answer the phone, they got no employees. I'm still going to answer the phone when we're a $10 million company. In 2 years, call me. I'm going to answer the phone, right? So, it's just who we are, and we care about people, and we're going to do right by people. And, we want people to come to Legacy because of who we are and what we believe and what we stand for, not what we build, not the paddle. Because look, if you come to Legacy Pro because it's the best in spin right now, the next paddle that beats it in spin, you're going to run to it, right? That's not what we want. We want loyalty. We want generational loyalty. We want the children. We want the whole family, man. And that's what we're striving for.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you're saying this because these are all things that someone else or another company cannot imitate. You can imitate a paddle, you can imitate a product, but you can't imitate who someone is down to the core. You can try and imitate like how they talk, how they dress, how they look, but you can't imitate like the authenticity, the transparency, the genuine like care for wanting to foster like more community, family. And that's also, I think, something that's so powerful about not just what you're doing, but a lot of other companies and people who strive to do that is that at the end of the day builds a following. Like you look at someone like Mr. Beast, that kid is just genuinely a good person. And at one point he made a post to all his followers, and he was just like, after he put out his chocolate bars, he told people like, hey, if you happen to be in Walmart and the shelves of the chocolate bars are all messed up, do you mind, just tidying it up for me? The next couple hours, just post after post after post, people are just showing before and after photos. He didn't ask for anything, and he just because he cultivated this following of just being a genuinely like good guy. He's always trying to put others first, and these people they just cultivated this like amazing following where people are just willing to do something for this person. How many corporations can speak to that? So I think that's very interesting. What's next for Legacy? You have mentioned the tour bags, and elaborate on that if you.
So we've got a Legacy Pro S model that we're shipping off to USAPA to get approved. It's a square version of the Legacy Pro with a shorter handle, 5-inch handle. We've got a recreational paddle that we feel like we're going to break the industry on. That's coming out before too long. We're really striving to be in the recreational industry, right? We are definitely going to be in every facet of pickleball. So we're going to have pros, that's coming. We're not in a rush there, right? We don't have to go that route, but it's something we want to do. We want to support the tours. We want to support USAPA and nationals, and we want to be a part of building MLP and making a big difference in the game. But we also don't want to forget where we came from. So I play at the YMCA in Montgomery, Alabama, indoor all the time. Now, not so much, but it was maybe three days a week. And I play pickleball because a 72-year-old hit me in the chest with the ball right off the bat. And I was like, man, can you do that? And he was like, heck yeah, you can do that. And I was like, all right, I'm in it now. And so, I was questioning myself as an athlete. So, you know, I want to make sure that Legacy is the social media company in pickleball, right? And we're way off, but man, it's so fun for me to post pictures of people winning medals, post pictures of people that are out there just doing clinics, that are just hanging out with their dog and the paddles there. I mean, we're going to do so much when it comes to our blog. We call it the Reset. It's about mental health, and it's about players, and they don't have to be Legacy players. They could play with whatever paddle. We don't care. We're going to tell your story, and if you're brave enough to tell your story, we want to tell it for you. And we want to help that. And so we're headed in the direction of making that a big staple of Legacy and who we are. And dude, we're going to do some exciting things coming up with some Super Juniors that are going to be pretty dope. And I'll tell you a little snippet. There's plenty of companies out there that man, they do an amazing job of picking off all the pros, right, and sponsoring every one of them. And they got the funds, right? They've been around, they've got the money. Well, we believe in juniors, and we know that the future of pickleball is these little studs and studettes coming, and we're very much going to go and sponsor a lot of them, right? And we're going to have fun with it. We're going to have big to-dos on social media. So and so 5-year-old sponsored. And listen, if anybody's watching this and steals my idea, shame on you. But we're definitely going to be um, making some cool commercials with Super Juniors and making a big to do out of it, kind of like high school recruiting, if you will. And so we're gonna have some fun with it, and that's the beauty of our game. And I promise you, when that rec paddle comes out, people are going to talk about Legacy as much as they're talking about us now. And we're gonna make some noise. We're not trying to get rich off of anybody, but we're definitely want to make paddles that are affordable and that are good for the family. And excited about the athletes that we have, and the things that they're going to be out there doing. We have a tremendous ambassador program. I mean, I don't think there's another ambassador program out there that is quite like ours. And we're just doing things different. And so you asked me about the built different thing, and the where did bet on yourself come from. And growing up, um, there were trials in my life. I lost my little brother when I was 15, and he was, man, he was something. He played every sport. Kid was just a genius. He was artistic. He was just salt of the earth, right? And I knew that growing up, that in order to succeed, you had to look in the mirror and not let the things that beat you down in the world, and the valleys that you've gone through, keep you in that valley. You had to put your money on yourself. You had to look in the mirror, and you had to bet on what you saw, and you had to believe in yourself, because what I know is, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. And Legacy is very much that. And so that's one of our mottos, is bet on yourself, because listen, you know what you're capable of. You just got to reach inside and grab it, right? And don't let anybody in the world tell you different, because there will always be haters. The big dogs are coming after us right now. They're slapping us with this and slapping us with that. But listen, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter because Legacy will still be here 10 years from now, right? And I'll tell you the exact reason why. It's because I look in the mirror every day and I bet on myself because I know that nobody's going to take it from me. You better be something else if you're going to take it from me. And so, that's where we're at. And every one of our athletes, man, they are the same, and our following, the people that believe in us and see our paddles and our passion, they're the same. And I mean, look, man, that 72-year-old that has never played in a tournament that plays with a Legacy paddle, when I walk in, man, it almost takes me in tears every time I see it because one day I'm going to walk in and he's not going to be there. Right. And man, for this amount of time, Legacy made something, and made a difference. And that dude made a difference to me. And that's just how it's going to be. And we're going to keep pushing, and we're not giving up. And look, even if even if things change with the Legacy Pro and the industry changes, we're going to adapt, right? Because we're here for the players, not to make money or to build the best paddle on the planet or the most expensive. We're here for the players, and that's what we're all about, is listening to the players and what the players want, and getting that feedback. And and we're working on some bags and stuff that players have really asked for. And that's kind of where we're headed. And man, forgive me for being a little emotional, but man, it's tough when you when you believe in something so much. um, I'm betting the rest of my life on this, right? I'm betting the happiness of my kids and my kids' kids on how hard I work right now. And so, and if you are the type of player that believes in companies like that, then take a chance on us. Because I promise you one thing, you'll never not be able to pick up the phone and call me, and I won't call you back, right? So,
Yeah, for sure. Man, really sorry to hear about your brother.
oh, man, I know where he's at.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's very proud of you. And I lost my dad when I was 25, died in like a climbing accident. And I feel you, man. It's a
It's tough.
shame that something so motivating and powerful has to come at such a high
Yeah,
cost and such a high price.
I
And I
agree.
can also tell that you have a coaching background, which I just want to say, man, coaches, I think that's a prop. I think that's something missing from society today is a lot of kids that are more going to like their screens as opposed to being under the tutelage of a coach. Is that these coaches bring something very special and different out of many individuals and make them feel like they're capable of something. And you don't have a lot of people like that in today's
Yeah,
society now. But man, you honestly ended this on a perfect note. I don't have any more things to say. You
awesome,
covered
awesome.
everything, and just want to say thank you, man. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
transparent. Thank you for just being, aside from a business owner, just the person that you are. Like you're a father, you're a son, you're just a overall honest human being, which is something that isn't easy to come by and not as common as one might hope.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm sorry to hear about your dad. And man, what I know is where we're all headed is the right direction, right? And if there's anything I can ever do for you or anybody else out there watching this, man, please pick up the phone and call me because for us, it's as important as helping everyone build their brand and their identity and who they are and helping them succeed because indirectly that'll help us succeed. And we're all about servant leadership and putting others first, and that's just who we are. So
For sure. What's the best place for people to find more information about
yeah, so you
Legacy?
can check our website out at legacypickleball.com, or you can check us out on Instagram at Legacy Pickle, or Twitter Legacy Pickleball, or Facebook Legacy Pickle. We're even on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, we're on TikTok at Legacy Pickle. So we're learning. I'm learning on Reddit, Discord. I'm old, but I'm learning. So forgive me if if I'm out there, and we cross paths, and I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I'm out there. So I will always be out there, and you know, I'm a player first, right? So
Yeah. Any last question, actually, because I feel like you're gonna have something good to say here. Is any advice you would have for someone who has successfully created a business in pickleball?
yeah, I would say this. It doesn't take much to do a lot, right? And if you wake up every day with good intentions and you believe in yourself and you don't let the outside influences bring you down, you're going to be successful. And there's so many good people in this industry that even if you don't know which path you want to run or where you want to run, there's people out there that'll help you, and they'll help you for free. And I'm one of them. And so if you're interested in getting in the paddle game, call me. I'll help you. We don't shy away from competition, right? And we'd love to see other people be successful and do things for our community and our industry. And uh, man, what an exciting time to be in pickleball at the front end of this thing. Listen, when this is in the Olympics, we're all going to look back and go, wow, we were at the front of it. And so what a blessing. And keep doing what you're doing. So awesome seeing. And I'm such a fan. I love watching your stuff, and I love watching Chris Olsen and those guys do their thing, and so many good podcasts out there. So it's awesome. And listen, from us to you, and me as a player to you all. Thanks for what you all do, because you are definitely a driving force behind the industry and motivation. Because without you all, it would be hard to get the word out there and really show and share what we all enjoy, getting up every day for. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah,
again, Chris. Really
yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Thanks for having me, bud. Good to talk to you.
Likewise.